Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities of sin and fire in the heart of the Jordan Valley. Long before desert swallowed the land and salt choked the waters, two cities flourished with beauty and wealth. Their names were whispered with envy by travelers, Sodom and Gomorrah. To the outside world, they were radiant gems of prosperity. But within, something darker was growing, a rot that no man could see until it was too late. The golden cities on the plain long before their destruction, the land of the Jordan plain was described as like the garden of the Lord. Imagine fields bursting with grain, rivers winding like silver, date palms heavy with fruit, and roads filled with merchants carrying gold, spices, and silk. People who came to Sodom thought they had found paradise. This is why Lot, Abraham's nephew, chose to live there. When Abraham offered him the choice of land, Lot looked at the fertile valley of Sodom and Gomorrah and thought, "Here is the future. Here is prosperity." But the Bible adds a chilling detail. The men of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. From the outside, they were rich. Inside, their foundations were rotting. The reputation of corruption. Sodom became infamous, even in its time. Ancient Jewish writings describe Sodom not only as a city of sexual perversion, but of cruelty, injustice, and arrogance. They had wealth, but instead of helping the poor, they abused them. Instead of welcoming strangers, they tortured them. Legends say that Sodom had laws against feeding the hungry. If a stranger came begging for bread, the people would mark him with honey and leave him for the bees. If a poor man tried to find shelter, he would be mocked and driven away. Hospitality, the most sacred custom of the ancient world, was outlawed. The prophet Ezekiel later summarized their sins: pride, abundance of food, careless ease, and neglect of the poor. It wasn't only lust, it was a culture that had turned its back on compassion. The cries that reached heaven, but the Bible says something fascinating. God did not simply decide in silence to destroy Sodom. Instead, it says, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is grievous." This means the victims of Sodom, the strangers mistreated, the poor left starving, the oppressed who had no voice, cried out, and their cries rose to the throne of heaven. It was not just their sin of pleasure, it was their injustice. And the cries of the innocent reached God. Abraham's intercession, when God told Abraham of his plan, Abraham did something daring. He argued with God. He said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous people in the city, will you not spare it?" And God answered, "If I find 50 righteous, I will spare the whole place." But Abraham pressed on. What if 45? What if 40? 30? 20? What if 10? And each time, God said yes. If there were even 10 righteous in Sodom, the city would survive. But there were not even 10. The corruption was too deep. The arrival of the angels. 2 angels entered Sodom in the evening. Lot sat at the gate, and seeing them, he bowed low, urging them to stay in his house. He knew what awaited them if they wandered the streets at night. But soon, word spread. By evening, men of Sodom surrounded the house, young and old, shouting for Lot to bring out the strangers so they could abuse them. This was no ordinary wickedness. It was a mob, an entire city demanding violence. Lot pleaded with them, even offering his own daughters in desperation, but they mocked him, saying, "This stranger came here as a foreigner, and now he dares to judge us." They pressed forward violently until the angels struck them with blindness. The city was beyond saving. The escape. The angels told Lot, "Get out, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But Lot hesitated. His wealth, his home, his memories, all were in Sodom. The angels took him, his wife, and his daughters by the hand and dragged them out. "Do not look back," they said. "Do not stop. Run for your lives." And then it happened. Fire and sulfur rained down from the heavens. The fertile valley, once green and lush, was consumed in flames. Smoke rose like the smoke of a furnace. The cries of the wicked were silenced forever. Lot's wife looked back, longing for the life she had lost, and in that instant, she was turned into a pillar of salt. The land after judgment, the once fertile plain, became barren. Some scholars say the region of the Dead Sea, lifeless, salty, incapable of supporting life, is the scar left by this judgment. Ancient travelers describe sulfur pits and smoke rising from the ground. To this day, the Dead Sea remains one of the most desolate places on earth. The lessons of Sodom and Gomorrah, their story echoes throughout the Bible and beyond. In Jewish tradition, Sodom symbolizes cruelty to strangers. In Christian teaching, it warns against arrogance, sin, and injustice. Even in the Quran, their destruction is retold as a warning to future generations. Jesus himself said, "If the miracles done in you had been done in Sodom, it would have remained to this day." Meaning, Sodom was destroyed not because God delights in punishment, but because the people refused every chance to turn. Mystical theories and parallels. Over centuries, some have wondered if Sodom's destruction was not only divine fire but something cosmic. Some researchers suggest it could have been a meteor explosion or volcanic eruption, something that scorched the earth with fire from the sky. Others see the story as archetype, a warning that every civilization built on arrogance and injustice will eventually collapse. Ancient Babylon, Rome, empires through history, they all followed the same path. Sodom is not just a city, it is every nation that forgets compassion. Why it still matters, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah asks us, what happens when wealth blinds a people to justice? When pleasure replaces compassion? When arrogance deafens us to the cries of the weak? The fall of Sodom was sudden. One day, the cities celebrated as usual. The next, they were gone. The ruins remain in memory as a warning. The warning is not just for them, it is for us. For the greatest danger of Sodom is not that it was destroyed long ago. The danger is that its spirit lives on, in every generation that chooses pride over humility, pleasure over righteousness, and selfishness over love. And so the eternal question remains, if God looked at our cities today, would he find 10 righteous? Or would history repeat itself?